Welcome back, Truth Seeker. It is Tuesday, June 4th, 2024. And in the headlines announced today, actually last evening, it was announced yesterday evening, Monday, June 3rd. It's making its way in the headlines, though, on June 4th. It was kind of a night headline on June 3rd. So a lot of the nightly news cycled past. So it's getting more attention in the media today, the day after his passing, the day I'm doing this video. And what's interesting is that if you saw the headline last night and early this morning, everyone had it up that he died at 57. He was dead at 57 last night, early this morning. And now every headline is changed to he's dead at age 58. And if you notice, these things happen with celebrities when they pass. If you go back and look at Chadwick Boseman, remember Chadwick Boseman died the other year on the makeshift Jackie Robinson Day that was because of the COVID season. And that just happened to be Jack Kirby's birthday, the guy who wrote Black Panther. And of course, Chadwick Boseman was in the movie Black Panther, and he played Jackie Robinson in baseball. And if you look into the Jackie Robinson baseball player, he was in a tank brigade in World War II called the Black Panthers, predating, the Black Panthers that you think of when you think of counterculture. And again, the Black Panther Party started in The Black Panther Party started in San Francisco, and all the original meetings were in Catholic churches or in the Bay Area, San Francisco and Oakland. And, we talked, if you guys weren't here, early in the season of 2016, we pointed out why Cam Newton, the Black Panther, like Huey P. Newton, the Black Panther who founded the party, why Cam Newton would become the 58th quarterback to start in the Super Bowl. If you guys weren't here that year, in about week 3 of the NFL season, we explained why the Broncos would beat the Panthers in the Super Bowl in San Francisco, where the Black Panthers are from, when their founders, Huey P. Newton, who died in the year Cam Newton was born, 1989. But we were talking about the significance of the number 58 and what it had to do with Huey P. Newton and Cam Newton if he faced Peyton Manning, how he would be the 58th quarterback to start in a Super Bowl in NFL history. And that's exactly what happened. And part of that prediction was also that Von Miller would be the MVP of the Super Bowl, number 58, who was drafted one pick after Cam Newton. And yeah, again, there's a lot to it, but 58 was the number. So we're going to be talking about, again, what's special about the number 58 and why it's strange that all the headlines went from him dead at 57 to him dead at 58. And both numbers are interesting. You might recall Prince passed away at age 57 the other year. And then Charlie Murphy, who's connected to Prince through the Chappelle Show, died at 57. There's a significance to both numbers within the Kabbalistic practice of coding numbers into words. And there's a special relationship with 57 and 58, as we'll get to. We've talked about this before, but yeah, that was the pattern. So if you missed this, like last night, when the headlines came out, again, TMZ dead at 57. Everyone had him dead at 57. Billboard Music, the billboards, dead at 57. Entertainment Weekly, dead at 57. Then magically, all these headlines now roll over today, and he's dead at 58. I was just trying to catch up with things today, and I took screenshots this morning and didn't have a time to decode it. And then I come back and now he's not dead at 57 anymore. He's dead at 58. But if you're new here, Gematria, the Kabbalistic practice of coding numbers into words, things start to make a lot of sense. And, Two Live Crew is heavily associated with Miami, but they actually started in Los Angeles, and they got the Ice-T connection, the famous gangster rapper from LA who also has the big TV and movie career. And who's living to be an old man for a gangster rapper, man. A lot of these guys didn't make it out of their 20s. Some of them didn't make it out of their 19s. But in Gematria, Miami equals 36. There's no cause of death for why he died on the 3rd day of the 6th month. And in the U.S., we do write June 3rd, 6/3, more like 63. But the majority of the world writes the date 3/6. So, again, 36 is associated with the date. In Miami, in Gematria, it does equal 36. And we talk about rituals with this number in Miami and sports quite often when we look through the rigged sports lens day after day. But yeah, the 57 in Brother Marquis's age is his birth name. His birth name is Mark Ross, which equals 57. Mark Ross. He was born on a fateful date in history too, and he had the beef with Luther Campbell, and he went on Vlad TV a couple years ago, and he explained, and he seemed very honest and sincere, but he explained why he did not like Luke, the most famous member of the group, as a man, and explained how he beat on women and children, but would never challenge another man. And he called him out for some other things, and he said, he snuck off with a guy whose last name was something like Berg, something Berg, you know. But he said they snuck off and rewrote the contracts and kept 14 million away from all the members of the group except for essentially Luke and the lawyer. Um, so yeah, again, this man who's dead today, Brother Marquis. In terms of like watching celebrity interviews, I might recommend watching the Brother Marquis interview from 2022 on Vlad TV. Just because it sounds like a sincere celebrity who's actually reflecting on life. He explained how when he got on this with this group, Two Live Crew, he didn't like how much cussing there was and the things that were being. He just thought it was like too crude and like probably like something his mother would not be proud of. But he said what changed his mind is when he saw the way people responded to it and how many records they sold, and he said, "Well, if society likes it, then it must be all right." But I got to be honest, as a young person, like I just thought I couldn't listen to Two Live Crew because I just thought they were too raunchy. I just thought, oh no, my mom would not want me listening to this. Oh no, she would not. But that doesn't mean that everything when I was a kid, it was like it was just crossing the line too much. Like sometimes if something crossed the line a little bit as a kid, you'd be like, yeah, mom probably wouldn't like this, but I can justify this because I just got to have some fun or satisfy my curiosity today. But when I heard Two Live Crew, I was just like, no, 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 it's too much. And yeah, I got to look more into it because I was when I was listening to this Vlad TV interview. The reason I liked it is because there was just actually some good information and things to research in there. I didn't realize that Two Live Crew was connected to such an important Supreme Court case about the right to use another person's music, and they said they changed the game because if you parodied anybody's work, then you cannot be sued for copyright. You don't need their permission to use the music if you're doing a parody of it. And you think of like Weird Al, but they were talking about that with the Roy Orbison "Pretty Woman" song, and just in light of like the organic side of life or just like the weird side of life, my mom. Oh my God. You know how like people were obsessed with the movie Titanic? I didn't know anyone in my own life who was obsessed with Titanic like the media reported it, but my mom was obsessed with Pretty Woman. And she liked the song too. She liked the movie and the song. I remember growing up, she'd play it all the time, that song. But I didn't even know that Two Live Crew did a parody of that song, and that's what brought up the Supreme Court case. But I just thought that was funny when I heard that today because I was like, man, see, like I just knew I had to self filter as a child. Like when I first heard this group, I just thought, oh no, oh no. And you know what? Here, I'm gonna call out my sister too. I don't know if her kids watch my videos or not, but they should know this stuff now that they're all getting older. Their mom has been so strict, who is my sister. Man, my sister used to be playing Two Live Crew with her boyfriend in front of me and driving around in the car. And like, so I thought, like, I'm not sure mom would want me listening to this. But because my sister's a lot older than me, she's 12 years older than me, like 7 years old. But no, I just find it hilarious how conservative my sister became and how she just like hid everything from her children, which totally backfired on her when they became teenagers. And I told her that I said, there's no reason for you to be this strict. Our parents weren't this strict on us and we turned out all right. I said, trust me, Jen, it's like, you should see the kids at Arizona State who I went to school with who were locked up in their home their whole life and got to party once they got to college for the first time and just went overboard. Had to drop out of school the next week because they already messed up their life so bad. But anyway, yeah, we'll talk more about this. So I'm getting tense, gentle. And I don't mean to hate on Two Live Crew if you like their music. I'm just saying that he's even reflected and saying, like, initially he thought it was like too much. But then when he just saw the way the money came in, he was like, well, if they like it, it must not be that bad. And I'm not judging him for that either because the average person would do that, right? If all the people in the world could resist that kind of temptation, power, fame, money, wealth, all the things that like people want in our culture, um, the things that are promoted in mainstream music, especially hip hop, all things in moderation. Some people disagree with that, but like a lot of these messages are just abundance and in a bad way and in a dishonest way. But yeah, it's interesting to hear him reflect on how, what he thought and then how his mind changed. But it sounds like, now as an adult, he's like, yeah, I'm not like super proud of the music, but we had a good time. And then what's funny in the interview is you get into how later in records, once he got into the group and this was accepted, he's writing the records and writing these songs. So it's like he went from like not being about it to being really about it. And I guess that's, getting money and fame and all these things can do for you. But yeah, if everybody could resist that kind of temptation, imagine then the world would it wouldn't be what it is today. A lot of things that are just the most messed up today come back to money and power. I mean, really, that's what money's about, right? In our society, it is a form of power in a big way. So yeah, we're going to talk more about that, and then also the Joe Biden thing taken on the border today. Joe Biden taking on the border on a Tuesday election day. And we're going to talk about exactly what it has to do with Donald Trump, the man who ran on building the wall and was called the 45th president-elect on the anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall, and who just had the mega ritual with Stormy Daniels' hush money trial last week, 45 days after it began, in the trial where Stormy Daniels took the stand 45 days after her 45th birthday, and on and on and on, man. Again, Donald Trump, the charges came 45 days from the anniversary of the death of his first wife, who had his first child with, who died 45 years after their marriage. And again, it goes back to Obama joking on the 45th birthday of the Church of Satan that Trump would be the next president at the White House Correspondents' Dinner 45 days before Trump's birthday. And the highest degree of the Church of Satan is MAGA, MAGA. Again, I'm going to be so redundant about these things until everyone's chanting them across the country like it's the USA with the flag waving. It's like, okay, that's not the trance we need to be under. We need to look at the game that's being played with us by numbers every day out of a federal city that's nicknamed the Masonic City, where it's etched on the temple all his number. But this 45 thing, we're going to get how today is 197 days after Joe Biden's birthday, the 45th prime number, as he takes on the wall that Trump built. And again, Reagan ran on MEGA, Make America Great Again. And Reagan said, tear down that wall in regards to the Berlin Wall. And in Gematria, Berlin Wall equals 45. And again, Trump was called 45th president-elect at 2:29 a.m. on 2:29 a.m. on, again, November 9th, the anniversary of the fall of the wall. And if you guys want to go back and look, when Trump comes out and accepts, he's on the stage at 2:48 in the morning. And remember, President Donald Trump equals 2:48. And again, the Illuminati just turned 248 years old May 1st, and the United States of America turns 248 years old July 4th. He had the mugshot on 24/8. He chanted, lock her up for Hillary, and now there's speculation that he could do some lockup time. But again, it's all perfect ritual by the numbers we've been talking about. So now here we are today with Biden, saying he's going to do something about the border. And then his son is in court with the nice sketches, facing 25 years of prison time. And it's like, think about what America is being put through right now and how few people are questioning it. I mean, I've seen, you guys, this is why I look how old I look. I have all this gray hair here now and these wrinkles. And when I smile, I look like I'm 50. It's sad because I used to just be a baby-faced 17-year-old when I really did see through this game. And I was in the most perfect class to discuss it every day with the most perfect teacher. And I like that he was not nice to me because he made me, every day I was trying to win over his support, but it was nothing but insults. But I guess it wasn't all nice. But I appreciated his class and having the ability to discuss things and debate, even if he thought my points were always stupid. But I was literally arguing in my senior year of high school that it looked like the US election was rigged, and he thought it was so dumb. He'd literally say, Hubbard, you are an idiot. Like the fourth time Hubbard's like, Hubbard, you are still dumb and wrong about this. You do like he had the idea that so many Americans that America is this great country, the best one there is. He's been in other places and seen that they're not as great as here. And I just saw it back then that I never accepted that America could don't do no wrong, as so many Americans somehow have cultivated into them. And I probably do largely owe that to my thanks to my mom, because she questioned everything and got me probably questioning things too. She does say though that I came out of the womb asking questions. She said I used to drive her nuts with my questions, I'm sure. But anyway, I'm glad I asked so many questions, because now I just laugh at this stuff every single day and how it's the same damn numbers. I mean, think about what a hunter in the modern era carries with them. I mean, there's very few. Well, actually, it's become more of a thing in the last, maybe the 21st century. A lot of people getting back into crossbows and stuff, but it's mostly still guns when people go hunting. Hunter Biden with the gun issue when his father guaranteed major gun reform when he came into office. It's just, this stuff is so exponentially stupid and obvious, and yet almost no one's questioning. They're just like, American can do no wrong. It's just, but for all of you guys who think American can do no wrong and this is just the way it is, I mean, seriously, if you think this is just the way it is, how then? Ask that question. How is this the way it is? And it should be like this or is like this, that we're literally being made to choose between these two really old men who were the last election, who are pointing their fingers at each other for things they both did. Again, for anyone who's buying into one of these guys is responsible for inflation, you are like, now I'm Mr. Griffin, the teacher who'd call me an idiot, except for I'm going to call you an idiot, even if it's not nice, but you're not going to prove me wrong. You're going to realize you're an idiot. This whole thing is a big rigged game. And if you look into it the way we have, and I've been here analyzing it for a long time, trying to figure it out. And then when I thought I figured it out, I started presenting it. And what I've been presenting has just been building up day after day, every single day, as we've done it for more than a decade straight. But again, how many times have I talked about 25 with Biden and Trump? And again, this is the 60th election upcoming. Look at Donald Trump and Hunter Biden. But again, he's facing 25 years. A million times between these two with these numbers. The Trump thing last week, the Biden thing this week. And again, if you don't know how to compute the words as numbers, it's just based on the alphabetic order. In this case, with numerology applied, it's super simple. You could teach this to a child in a nicer way, in a nicer tone, with nicer examples and no idiots. But yeah, this is something you can learn and see through all the time, and why these things are happening on the days they are. Again, the main thing here is that it is 197 days after Joe Biden's birthday, the 45th prime, going on the mountain of 45 rituals. Ever since Trump announced he was running for president in 2015, that we've been documenting the whole time. That's for people who are new here. It's hard to appreciate that I've been here for over a decade, and Trump's been around with this whole running for president and being president and running again. He's been here for almost a decade doing these same types of things. And now all these years later, and again, Stormy Daniels equals 78. Trump's about to turn 78. Again, Kennedy equals 78, like Cleveland. A lot of parallels with what's going on with RFK and the race. I've been talking about all this. I can't go into it again, but the point is, if you're new here, the Jesuits, look into them, 16th century, system synced up, and the theaters. Again, we know these phrases, political theater. No one listening nor myself invented that term, but we know about it. Political theater. Donald Trump literally comes from Hollywood. The whole thing with Robert De Niro right now. Here, I want to put it more together with the Robert De Niro Trump feud. Okay. So Robert De Niro was in the last Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix, and he plays like the late night TV comedian who interviews the Joker and gets shot by the Joker on live TV, the way it's presented in the film. Robert De Niro plays that character. He gets shot by the Joker, and the Joker's name again is Arthur. His real name is Arthur. And Robert De Niro played Taxi Driver. He's the main character in Taxi Driver. If you don't know about De Niro's film Taxi Driver, it's considered one of those great Hollywood films from that era. But it's like a social commentary from the eyes of a somewhat deranged man who does have a sense of justice too. He saves a young girl from a pimp in the movie, but he's also thinking about assassinating a politician in New York. That character that De Niro played in Taxi Driver is based on Arthur Bremer. Arthur, like Joker's Arthur. Arthur Bremer, who shot George Wallace when he was running for president, who Trump was compared to in 2015 and 2016. And there's still headlines about Trump and George Wallace, but George Wallace was the 45th governor of Alabama. And there's more to say about that, but it's just another 45 thing. And now, again, today, 197 days after Biden's birthday, the 45th prime number, the obvious parallels being drawn, the wall, and now the legal problem and potential prison time for his son. And think about what this is when you're the controllers of the world. You're making this political theater to manipulate and create a friction and a divide in the country. Remember, Lincoln blamed the American Civil War on the Jesuits. If you're new here, there's a lot to get caught up with. I gotta just finish this book that I haven't, just put it out there for all the people who need to get caught up. But imagine what it is like just in terms of manipulation, right? People who are hot and bothered about Trump are now watching this, and you know what they want, right? If you're hot and bothered about the Trump guilty, you really want to see Hunter Biden go to prison. You'd love to see all 25 years. You're all caught up in it, and you're on a side. You know, shots fired at your guy. Now you want to fire him back at his son, right? And let's not forget what happened to Joe Biden's other son or his wife and daughter. Again, all things we've been talking about a million times. And I wanted to jump to the next step in what's going on, but then I'm like, I understand why people, Bill Walton, man. Again, Bill Walton's Secret Service name is, or not Bill Walton. Bill Walton finished his career at the Celtics. Joe Biden's Secret Service name is Celtic. Again, John Havlicek died the day that Joe Biden announced he was running for president. Celtic. A whole bunch of stuff with the Celtics and Biden we've been documenting over the years. But now the day the Celtics clinch the finals, Bill Walton drops dead. His birthday is the upcoming election. He would have turned 72. Like how Joe Biden became senator-elect in 72, and then his wife and daughter died just about a month later during Saturnalia, and Saturn's connected to death and judgment and an ancient Roman festival having to do with sacrifice. We're in the time of the first Jesuit pope whose birthday is in the time of Saturnalia as well. It goes from December 17th to the 23rd. And again, when Beau Biden died, Joe Biden was 72 years old. In Gematria, Jesuit Order 72. Their logo is the sun. The sun moves 1 degree on the astrological wheel every 72 years. He loses the sun when he's 72. His son dies at 46. Joe Biden ends up being number 46, elected 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday. And the only other Catholic president died at 46, JFK. And again, Catholic is 46. It is, since today's 197 weeks after, or not 197 weeks, since today's 197 days after Biden's birthday, that means 2 days from now, a Thursday, is 199 days after his birthday, the 46th prime. Yeah, well, I'm thinking about what could happen. Okay. Sorry, being extra tangential, but let me go back to the Brother Marquis thing, and then we'll come back to Biden. Again, not that old of a person and dead for unexplained reasons. It just happens all the time in entertainment. And there's a relationship between both these stories today, right? And I'll make that point in a moment. It's about an order, orchestrating things in society, making headlines happen. And again, instead of being the person who needs every last question answered, like not only can I show you the repetitive rituals day after day, but you need that question answered before you'll move an inch of how it's all being done. And it's like those kind of things are only going to happen when enough people start pressing forward and asking the right questions. But see, most people they don't want to really become involved because they're worried about consequences, and rightfully so. But somehow there has to be a shift in society so these things stop happening. People have to start to see that it's not an accident that the nation's capital is where the Jesuits set up camp, and it didn't used to be the capital, Washington, D.C., but the Jesuits have always been there. Again, Georgetown was established right before George Washington was inaugurated at age 57. We're going to get to, again, how he went from dead at 57 to all the headlines changing to 58. But again, how these numbers 57 and 58, how they relate to Freemasonry. And again, going through this, dead unexplained for unexplained reasons is Brother Marquis on the third day of the 6th month, June 3rd. The hip hop act 2 Live crew is associated with Miami. Miami has that gematria of 36, like third day, 6th month. But again, they're from Los Angeles, and we're going to get to that piece with Ice-T, who did a song with them. Entertainment Weekly's headline, Brother Marquis, rapper of 2 Live Crew and 99 Problems fame, dies at 57. That 99 Problems song is before Jay-Z, and it's done with Ice-T, who got famous as a musician and then in movies and TV shows. And Ice-T, for the record, did one of the most interesting movies that's really hard to find now, Surviving the Game. A part of me wonders if something like that is going on in the world when a lot of these celebrities are reported dead in a car crash. I'm like, I'm not sure that it's not surviving the game, and this is how the process goes. When you don't survive the game, like I think Martin Lawrence survived the game once upon a time. Good for him. There's got to be some survival stories, but yeah, if you've never seen the Ice-T movie Surviving the Game, that's a movie to check out because I think that was more than a Hollywood movie. I think that was a clue about certain levels of society and people that are powerful enough to, play crazy games with human lives that are life and death for their fun, but not the unwilling and unknowing participant. But yeah, this is how it started. He was dead at 57. Now everything's 58, right? The old age switch. I forgot even making the point about Chadwick Boseman. They reported Chadwick Boseman died at 43, but if you looked at and you can go back and look at all my old archive posts on this, we had all of the screenshots of all of the from Wikipedia to IMDb to the Google search to just everything. Everyone changed Chadwick Boseman's date of birth by 1 year over the course of 24 hours after the headline broke, because we have all the screenshots from before they changed and after. And initially, he would have died at 42. And you can verify that he should have died at 42 because he died August 28th, 2020, shortly after Kobe. Remember, COVID moved the baseball season, so it moved the makeshift Jackie Robinson Day that he died on. Normally, it's April 15th, but it got moved to August 28th, in Jack Kirby's birthday, who wrote Black Panther. But that year, COVID shifted the baseball season and the NBA season, and it moved the NBA Finals to the games being on Father-Daughter Day. And remember, the Lakers won the finals in that weird time in October, exactly 41 weeks after LeBron's birthday on Father-Daughter Day on the calendar. Look it up. It's a thing. After Kobe died at 41 while traveling from Catholic Mass on the 41st day of the Pope's age, and LA equals 41, the big way when you run the alphabetic order in reverse. Kobe Bryant equals 41 when you just use the alphabetic order with numerology. Again, gematria is based on 4 base ciphers, alphabetic order, forwards and backwards with numerology. And yeah, what I was starting to work on this morning before I posted it and before I had a chance to come back to it, and his age had changed everywhere, I was pointing out how his name is Mark Ross. And the last time a member of this group died, 2 Live Crew, was back in 2017. The Asian rapper, Fresh Kid Ice. And it was interesting listening to him tell the story because he said Fresh Kid Ice just wasn't very nice to him. He just said kind of like distant. But anyway, that when Fresh Kid Ice died, what I pointed out in that post from years ago, here's my old post on that. This post is from July 13th, 2017, the day the headline broke. He died at 53. We're going to get to the Los Angeles connection. Los Angeles equals 53. That's where this group began. It's connected to Miami, but Two Live Crew began in Los Angeles. Brother Marquis is from Los Angeles, or he said that he's very connected to the Los Angeles area when I was listening to his interview. But hold on, where's right here? Just his name. And here's the 4 base ciphers. Chris Wong 1, 57. He died on a 57 date numerology. Okay. We're talking about, just where it fits in with the word entertainer, Scottish Rite. Again, the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, the rites written by Jesuit priests, the first Jesuit university, Georgetown, which equals 57, established in 1789, right before George Washington was inaugurated at age 57. So yeah, it was 57 back when he passed. And now it started out as 57 today. And a part of me honestly wonders if like the reason that things have just gotten wonkier as time's gone on documenting this, like these types of things are happening more often than when I first started. And I'm like, is the algorithm like, yo, somebody already exposed what the ritual was with 57 and the last member of the group? So like, well, you know what we're going to do then? Scottish Rite 57. By the way, he died on the 165th day of his age. With the alphabetic order, Scottish Rite is 165. With the alphabetic order in numerology is 57. And on top of that, he died 57 days after the anniversary of their last album being put out, which was April 7th, 98, if I'm not mistaken. It was on April 7th, no doubt. But that's 57 days later he died, or a span of 58 days, like how his age of death went from 57 to 58. And again, he had a serious beef with Luke, whose birth name is Luther Campbell, the most famous member, you could say, of the Two Live Crew group. He's the one that Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg make fun of in the Dre Day song that had the big music video. And you know what? Hold on. This is in the back of my mind. I'm gonna see if the original name of that song was a 201. Hold on. Let's pull up the old calculator here. The actual name of that song, where he talks about the, I can't remember if they actually spell with the right way or that's the thing about hip hop spelling. They'll change a lot of words. Let me see. I think that is how it is without the H. Hold up. Let me look it up. Let me see if I'm making this up or it's true. I think that's the real name of the song. It is. It's Fuck Wit Dre Day without a H on the with. And it's 201. And remember, you guys, that music video targeted Eazy-E and Luke. And Eazy-E founded the record group Ruthless Records. And remember, Eazy-E ended up dying 201 days after his birthday. And his death was synced up with the Lethal Injection album that Ice Cube put out. And 201 ended up being the simulation for the pandemic where they simulate out rushing out jabs. And it was the sister simulation of Claydex where the jabs do a lot of damage in the world. And anyway, you can't even talk about these things. They call it medical misinformation for just talking about factual stuff. That's the Orwellian time we live in. Everything that I put out is verifiable. Sometimes I might accidentally say something that I didn't mean, the wrong name. I might be looking at the number on the screen, but I've done too many numbers for the day and I say the number different. Mistakes happen, but I'm never purposely putting out false information. Have I made a mistake here and there? Some. And when I find out, I always call it out and say, oh, this was a mistake. My bad. But anyway, to go back to Easy, Ruthless Records 201. And is it Band-Aid Boys or the Band-Aid Boys? You know Bone Thugs and Harmony? If you look it up, it's Band-Aid Boys. If you look it up, their original name was going to be Band-Aid Boys. And I wonder if like they had the original Nelly script to wear a Band-Aid on the face. Remember that? I was like, what is that about? Wearing a bandage on your face? Nelly, man. That's the most commercial rapper there ever was. But yeah, look these things up because I'm not lying. And if you're new here, if you don't know what 201 is, again, it is the number of the Jesuit order. I'm about to make another point about the Jesuits and what I say every day, as unlikely as it might seem to you. All roads lead to Rome. But the Jesuit order, look into their history. They were created 201 months after the 95 Theses was penned. That was their original mission, to stop Martin Luther and the 95 Theses. It goes with Martin Luther King Jr. being killed on the 95th day of the year and the nation's first major gun control coming 201 days later. But again, you look into the Jesuit founder, Ignatius of Loyola. It's also 201. And if you look into the Pope's name, Pope Francis, he's the first Jesuit Pope and the first to live in Suite 201 at the Vatican. You just look it up. Even the name of this suite equals 201. But his birth name, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, is 201. And you go on and on for days. We were talking about Joe Biden and his sacrifice. His wife and daughter died on Limestone Road back in 72. Limestone Road 201. And then his son died 201 days from the Pope's birthday on May 30th. This year, Donald Trump got it 201 days from the Pope's birthday, and also on the 201st day of the Superior General's age, who's the leader of the Jesuits, Arturo Sosa. Leo Jeremiah O'Donovan, again, look him up. He was the 42nd head of Georgetown, the nation's first Jesuit university, and both Jesuit and Georgetown are 42 for the record. But again, he was the 42nd head of the school, and he did the funeral for Beau Biden at age 46, and he did the inauguration for Joe Biden as number 46, elected 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday, inaugurated on the 20th day of the first month, written 20/1 in a lot of the world, like Miami goes with the third day of the sixth month, 3/6 in a lot of the world. But again, he did the funeral for Beau Biden at 46 and the inauguration for Joe Biden is number 46. And look up the guy who did the ceremony for Trump and his first wife, who died July 14th, 2022, 45 years after their marriage. He buried her a few days later on the 201st day of the year, July 20th of that year. But the man who did their marriage ceremony, his name equals 201. It's escaping my mind right now, but if you look it up, you'll find that. And you'll see that Donald Trump Jr. was born on the 201st day of Trump's age. And this stuff goes on and on and on. Like the mega ritual they did with Hawaii and Joe Biden last year, which we're going to get more into in a second, and let it today be in 6/4. But the mega ritual that they did with Joe Biden last year, showing up on the 64th birthday of Hawaii as a U.S. state, you know, Obama's homeland, Biden and Obama, 2008, taking the White House in 2009. But yeah, why they did that on the 64th birthday of Maui or Hawaii, and why today on June 4th, the date that we write 6/4 in the U.S., again, just to make a long story short, but we'll talk more about it, Joe Biden has that 64. So Joe Biden with his son, biggest climactic moment in the ongoing legal problems today, these heavy charges where he could go to prison for 25 years, when his father said he was going to get real strict on guns. He'll sacrifice his own son to sacrifice your right to the Second Amendment. I mean, that's who Joe Biden is. That should be Joe Biden's slogan 2024. I guarantee you, if that was his slogan, all of Seattle would still vote for Joe Biden. That's how bad Seattle is right now. But again, nobody should be voting in any of these elections because they're all completely rigged. These guys are from the same Jesuit fraternity. Again, Joe Biden's from Scranton, Pennsylvania, where the office is set, the same office that ran 201 episodes. They're all in the gang. Coming back to All in the Gang, Freemasonry's 58, so is Secret Society, and that same cipher, so is Rosicrucian. King James, the Freemason, and Rosicrucian, who has a Bible named after him, died unexpectedly at age 58, did King James. Biblical is 58. Again, Kabbalah relates to the Old Testament. This knowledge, Kabbalistic, again, all in a short time frame. Numbered English Bibles, 26-letter alphabet standardized, Gregorian calendar implemented, and just day after day, the way the rituals unfold, synced with the calendar, synced with this simple system. The rap group most associated with Miami loses a big influential member at a young age on the third day of the 6th month. And again, initially reported dead at 57 by everybody, now 58, but Again, Mark Ross, 57. Chris Wong, who was Fresh Kid Ice, who died on 57, date numerology, his birth name, 57. By the way, it's the 83rd month since the death of Fresh Kid Ice. Murder equals 83. If you're new here and you're skeptical, look up these two songs. Murder by Numbers by The Police from 1983. You'll see how it's a song about how killing is as simple as ABC is 1, 2, 3. And it's the sport of the elected. The word election equals 83. We're going to get to that point in a moment. Again, the Celtics are in the finals. If they win the finals, they'd get their 83rd finals win all time. What's interesting is if they lost, they'd get their 60th finals loss all time, and it's the 60th U.S. presidential election. But again, they've been syncing up sports and politics for a long time. We've been documenting this for years. Sometimes it's a lot easier to see than that. The 83 thing is interesting, though, because 83 is the 23rd prime. It's the Celtics' 23rd NBA championship series they've been in. Remember, they were in their 22nd and 22, like basketball in Boston's 22. But this season did begin in 23 as well. So anyway, now that I think about it, NBA Finals got that 57. Again, the Celtics lose Bill Walton the day they clinch. Larry Allen, the huge lineman for the Dallas Super Bowl winning Cowboys, just drops dead on 6'2" in Mexico while vacationing when his name equals 62 in Gematria, just like Claudia Sheinbaum, the first female president of Mexico, elected on 6'2" right before her 62nd birthday when she's born in 62, and she has the same birthday as Freemasonry, June 24th. Think about it. This big masculine dude drops dead unexpectedly in Mexico on the day of the first female president in Mexico, and both their names are 62. And you don't think that these secret societies that are here behind, again, I mean, I don't know where people's argument is. Is it true or not? Because I know it's true. Prove me wrong. American football is credited to a Scottish Rite Freemason, Walter Camp, and the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry has a headquarters in Washington, D.C., and it's nicknamed the Masonic City, and George Washington was a Freemason. I mean, so, okay, you got Masonry behind big pro sports, government. You don't think it's possible that they wove it all together through a Kabbalistic code when one of the most famous Masonic texts is Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma, and he writes in there that Masonry owes all things to Kabbalah? For the record, Jews equals 57. I don't say it in an anti-Semitic way. I say it in a way that Gematria is traditionally Jewish, and they say the Scottish Rite is the most Jewish branch of Freemasonry, but really all of Freemasonry is, in a sense, Jewish because it's based in the Old Testament. And again, Hebrew, the Hebrew alphabet, which is alphabet used by people who are Jewish, it's the one alphabet that people still know of in the modern times that every letter is a number. But lo and behold, it's very similar in English. So yes, initially reported dead at 57 on the 165th day of his age, changed to 58. He's been publicly outspoken about how much he doesn't like Luke, about how Luke and a lawyer. And see, that's the thing. I mean, okay. You know how I was just bringing up the Dre Day music video where Snoop Dogg really gets introduced on the scene? That and Deep cover around the same time with the 187 song. And that's, again, Society of Jesus equals 187. Abrahamic equals 187. There's 187 chapters in the Torah. Killing is a big concept in the Torah. Thou shalt not kill. These guys are rapping and promoting killing people through the code of 187, and you see how they've put this biblical spiritual influence on it. Again, 187 is one of the most interesting numbers. Again, Abrahamic, when you run the alphabetic order, just come to this. You can go to my website too, GematriaEffect.news. This website, they both work the same way, but you can see Abrahamic when you run the alphabetic order in verses 187. Come try it out. All of these things equal 187. Washington, D.C., George Washington, Holy Roman Empire, Brotherhood of Death. That's interesting because that's the nickname for Skull and Bones. And the phrase Skull and Bones equals 202, and D.C. is the 202 area code, and there's been some famous Skull and Bones people all throughout the history of Washington, D.C. Skull and Bones is modeled after the Templars. The Templar cross is in the Jesuit logo. The movie The Skulls with Paul Walker came out 201 days after his birthday. Paul Walker died 5 years to the day of George Herbert Walker Bush, a member of Skull and Bones. He died in that weird way in the red Porsche when he gets a red Porsche in the movie about Skull and Bones, one of his earliest movies that came out right before his son, George W. Bush, became the president of the U.S. And just about big numbers, the Bushes have portraits in the Masonic headquarters in D.C. The name Bush has the 58 in it, and George W. Bush has the 58 in it. And of course, George W. Bush gave us Sam Alito, who's been used in a gazillion rituals lately. The abortion memo leaked by the numbers, and lately the whole flag debacle going on there, January 6th contrived debacle that they literally simulated with the Transition Integrity Project at Jesuit Georgetown. But when Alito had this latest flag thing, it was 58 days from his birthday, the heaven flag. Heaven, it's biblical. It's in a way, it's all biblical. It's good and evil. It's people blinded by evil. It's a Kabbalistic code keeping people blind. It's stories like, again, I highly recommend that everybody watch the Brother Marquis interview on Vlad TV. And this isn't to promote Two Live Crew's music. It isn't to promote Vlad TV. It's just, I had it playing in the background while I was looking into his passing, just to gain some more information about his recent life. And again, he shared a lot about how Luke and a lawyer rewrote some contracts and screwed them. And then they said that record after they got screwed made 14 million and nobody got anything except for Luke and the lawyer. And then he went on about how Luke is not a good person. And he said another thing I'll call him out for as a man is he'll never challenge another man, but he'll beat women and children. And he's just said, I was never cool with that. And in a way, Luke's pushing all these stereotypes, isn't he? Or, I don't even want to get involved in this because I don't know that any of this is true. And maybe for all I know, it's all part of the ongoing drama and just meant to add to stereotypes. But it did seem like he was sincere and genuine. And it did seem like he was humble. And like I said in the beginning, if you got here late, he talked about how when he first got to the group, he thought it was too raunchy and he didn't really want to be this. But then he saw the way it was received and how much success there was. And he just said, well, it must be all right then. But in a way, that's kind of like what blinded by evil is. Because if you're doing things, it's just, like I don't want to blame Two Live Crew for society, but like they do mark like a major change in culture. And I just do think like, I don't want to. I guess it's hard to say anything because you just like offend so many people. But I feel like they really did help make society a lot more sleazy. Like that's the word I want to associate with Two Live Crew. And there is talent. I don't know. It's just I don't even want to do that because I'm not trying to rip on him. It's just he was saying like he kind of regrets and he wasn't about it at first, but then the money and fame kind of changed his attitude about it. And I just thought as a young person, like I should actually plug my ears. Like your mom will say to you, if something's going to be said in a room that she doesn't want you to hear, she'll be like, plug your ears. When my sister and her boyfriend plays, I'm like, I think I should plug my ears. But anyway, so he was even saying that. I was like, that's exactly how I felt as a child. And then hearing his story about Pretty Woman just blew my mind because I was like, wow, my mom was just so obsessed with that Pretty Woman movie and song. Okay, coming back. The day he passed, June 3rd, his death anniversary will often be remembered on the 154th day of the year. Now, technically, he died on the 155th day of the year because it is a leap year this year. But again, we've talked about this in leap years. We talk about ritual sacrifice in 154, a good deal in the world of celebrity. So it is true when people go to his gravestone to bring him flowers on his death anniversary, it typically will be on the 154th day of the year. But notice, again, why he's seemingly gone at this age. He told the story of how Luke kind of... this is the other thing that he said. Sorry, I left out a big thing that I liked about his interview. And honestly, I haven't even quite finished it yet. I have about 15 minutes left. But where I was at, he'd gotten to the part 2 about how in one of their later albums, once he started working with this lawyer, they got a whole bunch of lyrics plugged in that they're supposed to put in, and he didn't like that. He didn't want to do it because he wrote songs and he takes pride in it being his work. And he didn't want to use some other rhymes that got passed on to Luke to put in the song. And this is the point I've been making. So that's why I enjoyed listening to this, because I've been saying, like, how many, I mean, for anyone who's listened to me for any period of time, I'll often bring up that I don't think a lot of these songs, like like they might write part of the song, but certain things that are put in there, you'll start seeing all the songs on the radio have like a big theme or a certain buzzword, and you're just hearing it way too much. Um, Programming, but yeah, so in a way, that interview, I mean, you're listening and reading about between the lines. You're kind of hearing an inside of how it works. All of a sudden, crazy money comes in after he partners up with this one guy, but everybody gets screwed except for the guy who sold out the group. And to be fair, I mean, there's two sides to every story, but something tells me that the way he put it out there, because at certain points he's like, I don't want. He's like, I only want to talk on things that I know and I can stand on, and that's how everybody should be. Some people say that kind of stuff though, and they don't mean that. So you find that out in time. Mm. Someday I'm going to tell you a funny story about something I just been dealing with in life for like the last 6 months, and just like sometimes I just, when you're having your conversation with God or praying, you're just like, I don't understand your sense of humor sometimes. Like, I guess this is just the way the test is. To make a long story short I'll tell a lot longer story about this. There was some 80-year-olds in my life that needed a lot of little help with things, and they were quite a bit away from me, but I could help them out with their problems. It's when I sold my home to them, and yeah, I did them a lot of nice favors, and I did it because they're elderly, and I'm hoping someday if I'm an older person, I need some help, somebody will help me out too if I ask for help. But yeah, we came across some other people around that same age, and oh man, did they cause a problem for us in our life. I'm gonna tell the story someday, but I was just like, after I did all these nice things for this 80, I get shafted by like this dishonest 80-some-year-old couple. I mean, have these people been screwing over people their whole lives? They're still doing this in their 80s? Oh my God. The hustle. But yeah, I'm like, why? Why? Do something nice for these other people, and then it's a much bigger story, but I don't even know how I got on that. I'm just thinking about honesty. Yeah, I never try to screw people in life. I can't live with that, you know? People say there's no such thing as fair, but I always try to keep things fair. Oh, okay, and one more time, the Two Live Crew, uh, last album, the real one, was released April 7th, 1998. We've been talking about Freemasonry, secret societies. Look into the Freemasons and how they study the 47th problem of Euclid. Again, if you're new here, I'm always pulling up this and going, what is 47? There's an answer to that question. And I mean, I've written books about it. But I just ask the question, people are asking the question and start to recognize there's something up with 47. Because once you realize it, you start to see how it's used way too much. It's like put all over in backgrounds. Once you're aware of it, once it's in your consciousness, some people will say, well, that's just because you're aware of it. So now you're hyper-focused. No, pay attention to the way it's used in high ritual. Pay attention to the history of, again, masonry. And here, to make a long story short, all roads lead to Rome. Remember, the first Super Bowl season of the NFL was the 47th season of that league. And this year was the first ever Super Bowl on the Vatican's birthday. Vatican equals 47, like government, like authority, like time, like Republican, like Democrat, like president, like White House, like Caesar, and on and on and on. Huge number, 47. But also the 47th problem of Euclid studied by the Masons, the letters DC when you run the alphabetic order in reverse are 47. So Two Live Crew also has that 47 gematria in their name. And God, I'm even wondering about the label now. I'm starting to, Lil Joe, I'm just thinking about, this is in the news with Joe Biden, and we all know what happened to Lil Joe Biden. He got sacrificed at 46, and now Hunter Biden's on the ropes for doing prison time with all those zesty photos out there. He might actually like it in prison. But anyway, Two Live Crew has the 47, and again, Scottish Rite is 57, Freemasonry is 58. From April 7th to June 3rd is 57 days later, or it's a total span of 58 days. And again, if you don't understand the difference, if you count April 7th, April 8th, April 9th, April 10th, you count all the days up to June 3rd, the day of his passing, that's a total of 58 days. But a lot of people would just commonly say that, oh, June 3rd is that's 57 days later, which is true. It is 57 days later, but it's a total span of 58 days. So from dead at age 57 to all the headlines changing to 58. And then the public exposure of Luke Campbell, who ran off with the money and more fame and a lot different lifestyle, and might have been, according to Brother Marquis, aka Mark Ross, might have been beating women and children all along the way. And in a way, that's kind of the way this world is too, because that's kind of what the money system. I always try to think about what society would have been like before money, like more in a tribal time, a trade and barter type of time. Agriculture's come around. You have community. You might know about other communities that are helpful in this situation. You can trade this with them. They're in smaller towns. You don't want everyone just breeding together over and over, so you got to go out and meet the other town. I just think about how much different people would have been, and how if you don't have this thing in the world called money to really manipulate people, you just think about like all the craziest things people have done in life, they probably did it for money. And you take away this idea of money. I mean, there's still other things you could do crazy stuff for. Somebody could be the greatest gold miner because that has value. But if just somehow you took away this idea of a money system, which metals became associated with. Once upon a time, it wasn't that. So I guess it'd have to be before that. But just a time when like people just had to live and enjoy life and work together to survive. I forget. There's some old science experiment where there's like an island where they went to where there was just so much abundance and so few. I forget. I don't want to say this. I don't want people to miss. Okay. This isn't about race. Don't get it twisted. But there's a study of like a group of monkeys. You go to the zoo and you look at monkeys. They are very similar to us, right? I mean, they're sitting there peeling the banana the same way we do. Sometimes they're doing things that people wouldn't normally do, but you see the similarities when you see the monkeys and the different all the different species. They draw parallels to us. There's a study, if you want to look into it, I forget, but they found an island where just for whatever reason there wasn't that large of a population there yet, and there was an abundance of food, and they learned how because of the abundance, that community and lack of predators and everything, there was just like, because they didn't have to work that much on survival, it was just so easy to live there where they were. They found that this species had like developed inner conflict, and they just observed behaviors and feuding and fighting amongst them that they didn't see in other species and other islands where they're trying to keep up with other animals who are after the food supply, and they're having to look out for predators everywhere. Really interesting study. I cannot remember what the name of it is, but it's just like I've read a million things in my lifetime. I remember reading that years ago, and I was like, wow, that's so interesting. But in a way, it makes total sense, because when people aren't like busy and occupied, sometimes that's all. Like some people, you give them a good job and they have a schedule, they're the greatest person, but then they get off that schedule and then they have too much free time, and then they get into bad habits. Maybe they're drinking too much and going out and creating something crazy. But so, yeah, like I think that my dad, for example, my dad is a workaholic. The other people in his family are all alcoholics, but my dad avoided alcohol and made like his vice in life working. Somehow he just loves to work. He's still even wants. He's been retired now for a little, almost a year now, maybe a year exactly right now, actually. But yeah, he's ready to go back to work. He just misses working. Some people just love to work. Anyway, sorry guys, I'm so tangential today. But yeah, I guess I was thinking about being a kid and 2 Live Crew and thinking it was just too much. These people are crossing some kind of line. And there's a lot of musicians over the years that's been said about, but it didn't seem right. Oh, man. It just dawned on me that Ice-T's born in 58. Ice-T's also born on the 47th day of the year, for the record. February 16th, 31 days in January, 16 in February. That's 47 days. It took me forever to get to the iced tea piece because I've been so tangential and long on the tooth. Sorry, but again, in light of Two Live Crew actually starting in Los Angeles and Ice T being the gangster rapper from L.A., truly, I think the definition of a studio gangster. I got to assume it just based on the long career in Hollywood, TV, and movies. They said Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg were studio gangsters. I suppose still are. We all know what happened to Dr. Dre's son in the 187 ritual, R.I.P. But yeah, just the whole L.A. connection, and Ice-T's like as L.A. as you get. He's like the OG of the L.A. rap scene. Actually, I'm sure there's somebody before Ice-T. There's somebody out there who just got mad. They're like, no, he's not. He stole me. I just didn't get famous. That could be true. I mean, that's kind of the way it is. Eminem has those lyrics about how he locked Cage in his basement or something, right? And it's funny, like, if you've ever looked into that rapper Cage, listen to him. It's like, whoa, Eminem did, like, steal his style and flow. That's weird. He didn't make it, but Eminem did. Weird. How's it work? Who's in the club and who isn't? So, but yeah, seriously, if you do anything, if you're one of these people that's got to watch a new movie, or you watch a movie each week, find a way to watch Ice-T Surviving the Game. Disturbing movie, but I think about that movie and I think about what's going on with these weird deaths. So often they're just found dead in a hotel room, found dead slipped in the shower, found dead with his head bonked on the bed. That was the guy from you guys know that. This isn't a conspiracy theory. Look it up. What's the guy from Full House? Oh my God. I can't think of that damn guy's name right now. Guy with the long neck. If a human was a giraffe, if I said that, we're playing like some game, that's probably the first celebrity you'd think of, and you might be stuck on me like me and can't think of his name right now. Isn't his name in the show Danny Tanner? I can't think of the actor's name right now. He's really crude he's almost like the Two Live Crew of comedians. That's what blows you away if you see his character on Full House and then you see how he does his comedy. He's like the Two Live Crew of comedians. I can't think of his name right now, but that actor who died recently, it was synced up with the Niners playoff run that year. Full House set in San Francisco. I can't believe I can't think of his name. He's doing America's Funniest Home Videos, all this stuff. But look it up. He did a podcast with his wife before he died. Look this up. Look up his name and look up the podcast he did with his wife, talking about how apparently he's going to die in bed. He says that during the podcast. And then it got reported that he hit his head in bed, found dead in his sleep. At first, they just made it seem like he passed in his sleep, and then he hit his head pretty hard. And then I don't know if they ever really gave us any greater conclusion. But I bet if I look at the chat, you guys are spamming his name. Bob Saget. That's exactly right. Thank you. Bob Saget, man. Yeah, look it up. I'm not lying. Bob Saget was doing a podcast with his wife. It's his wife's show. If you just go to my website, I bet, and search Bob Saget, I bet I even got it somewhere archived there. Exactly what podcast and date it was. So that's what it's just like all this work we've done, and people just won't look into things. Yeah. October 25th, 2021. Podcast with wife Kelly Rizzo. He says, I'm going to be found dead in bed. Yeah, like I said, it was synced up with the 49ers season that year. It was their 76th season, San Francisco 76. R.I.P. OJ, the San Francisco product, gone in a sick ritual at age 76. He was in the headlines when, what's the guy from Rocky? Oh, my God. Carl Weathers. He died at 76, right at the start of Black History Month. Also had some NFL history with the Raiders. Parallels to OJ. OJ was sick in the headlines, supposedly dying from cancer, which OJ responded to on the day of the Masters. Not the day of the Masters, excuse me, the day of the Super Bowl. He responded the day of the Super Bowl. That was the last time OJ put out anything in the public, was the day of the Super Bowl. Died 59 days later. Super Bowl 59 upcoming. Black History Month ends on the 59th day. Motown in 59. Remember the word slave equals 59 when you run the alphabetic order forward. 76 in reverse. Master also equals 76. OJ was announced dead right as the Masters teed off. Slaves obey your masters. Ephesians 6 verses 5 through 9. Acts 7:6 about 400 years of slavery. Anyway, 76, but beyond that has the connection to San Francisco as well, which also fits in with OJ. And Bob Saget's death was a big 76 thing. He died 76 days after saying how he was going to die, synced up with the Niners' 76 season. And I have to go back and look, but I know that the Niners kept doing 7-6 rituals in the playoffs that year. And these things have gone on for a long time. We've been talking about this stuff for a decade now. The episode was 159 days after the wife's birthday. Scottish Rite also has that 159 connection. Speaking of always talking about the same things. Again, American football, Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, secret societies. Bob Saget, I'd have to look into to be certain his religious history. I'll remind people, just because somebody looks Jewish doesn't always mean that they're Jewish. I have all these people who've been accusing me for years of being a Jewish shill, an Israeli shill. I can literally prove to anybody, and if there's somebody out there that wants to prove this wrong, maybe there's some big millionaire out there who thinks that I'm full of shit and I'm Jewish. You want to take a bet? You want to take a bet? Because I can physically prove that I'm not Jewish, and that could be the way to fund this movement. I got so many haters out there accusing me of being Jewish because I look a little bit Jewish. Again, there's people in the world in my situation. My dad doesn't know who his dad is. There's a lot of people that have that type of thing. They don't know who one of their parents are. They don't know who both of their parents are. But my dad doesn't know who his dad is. His dad very well could be Jewish or Ashkenazi. So I look a little bit like that, but that doesn't mean I'm Jewish. Jewish people have something done to them when they're born or at some point in their life. Some people do it later in life, and that's just crazy. That is some commitment. But I have never had that done to me, so I can officially prove that I am 1,000,000% not Jewish. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being Jewish. I'm just saying people accuse people of being Jewish because they look Jewish. Like I might say Bob Saget looks a little bit Jewish, but I don't know that he is. Now, the 2 Live Crew lawyer, he's given some people a bad name. And remember in the Dre Day music video, they have the scene of Eazy-E kind of like he's in the room with the fat Jewish lawyer and they're putting the red dot on their head like they're going to shoot him. Again, once upon a time in the 90s, this was like being promoted in mainstream culture. It was kind of like through an MTV music video. If you're paying attention, you're like, oh man, there's something wrong about crooked Jews and rappers. Ice Cube. Again, I never understood why anybody wanted to call themselves Ice Cube because they melt. Not a good name for a battle rapper. You're definitely going to melt. But yeah, Ice Cube's doing songs about, the Jews, the Jew breaking up the whole crew. I mean, so and you think about that era, like you're learning to idolize these people and this music and these thoughts, and it's mainstream from a little bit of Jew bashing to calling people fags. I mean, this is the 90s. Like, wasn't really a thing, but everybody still watched Seinfeld. And by the way, Jerry Seinfeld 201 and Larry David, who's behind that's now doing all the 201 rituals and deaths of former Seinfeld actors and actresses. And again, you guys, this Jesuit thing is massive, but again, it goes right back to Eazy-E dying 201 days from his birthday, being connected to lethal injection. Event 201, the simulation for the pandemic, where before the jab even came out, they were already marketing on TV that black people need to be the first to get it. They market the first person vaccinated in the U.S. as a black woman. Again, the things I'm talking about are way deeper than just this celebrity's dead today, this contrived political theories today. It's about this is the gang, and we have figured out how they operate and what they're doing and how this is biblical. And it is, just like ancient belief systems that are condemned, sacrificing to God, their gods. It's obvious that at the end of the day, these types of things are still going on. All this stuff that we were taught about, just very briefly touched on in parts of our life about these old world concepts and mysticisms, they are now a thing of the past. So, I got to look more into the Supreme Court case that they had because I just learned that they are part of a landmark Supreme Court case. Um, it stands out to me, Mr. Mix, the pretty much the guy who's the main co-founder of Two Live Crew. It stands out to me that he's 60 years old and his birth name, the way it's written up, David P. Hobbs. I'm not doing just the middle initial. That's how it is online. David P. Hobbs is 60. A lot of 60 stuff going on right now with the upcoming 60th U.S. presidential election when um, speaking of which, the election, a big number in the election, number 45 trying to return to office and become number 47 running on Agenda 2047. Miami has the Gematria 36. Miami in the most simple cipher is 45. And this death of this Two Live Crew member is 197 days before the Pope's upcoming birthday. That's the 45th prime. It's in the news today, again, 197 days after Joe Biden's birthday, the 45th prime. And while Joe Biden is number 46, he is the 45th person to be U.S. president. And then Trump's down there in Florida, number 45, but who was the 44th person to be U.S. president? And the man who's dead here is born on April 4th, that very fateful number, especially in Black history. MLK killed on 4-4, Malcolm X killed on 44, date numerology. Obama elected number 44, 44 years after the Civil Rights Act. But again, this 197 days before the Pope's birthday, we're constantly shown how these huge rituals in the world of hip hop, at the end of the day, the strings actually seem to oftentimes pass through like a Jewish lawyer, but then go back to Rome. And I really start to think about how everyone thinks the Rothschilds run the world when, again, that Rothschild was just 86th at age 87 while the Pope is 87, and a ritual clearly synced with the Pope and what his bank was named. Not only did his name equal 87, so did the bank. But again, if you don't know what Rothschild means, it means red shield. And if you think about red shields in history, Templars are going to be up at the top of the list. The original military order of the Catholic Church, which the Jesuits now are. The Jesuits are the modern day Templars, and that's why they have the Templar cross in their logo. But yeah, I didn't realize. I knew Two Live Crew's music was pushing limits, but I didn't realize they had a big Supreme Court case. So that'll have to be phase 2 of this, unless it's real quick to see. Let me just see what comes up when you search that phrase. Campbell versus A Cuff Rose Music Incorporated. Back in 94. What are the dates on this thing? It's amazing how many names have changed on the court since then. Decided March 7th, 94. Argued November 9th, 93. Funny, November 9th. That's the day leaving 52 days left in the year. March 7th in a non-leap year is the 66th day of the year. So that means it was 118 days later. You know how hip-hop's birthday is 11/8, like 118? Tupac died in the 118 date numerology. I got to go back and look at the work that I did. I think I did. See, it's easy to like forget. We were looking at hip hop's 50th anniversary. I think I did figure out something bigger about that 118 in relation to hip hop music, but it slipped through my mind to go back and research that. So that is funny though. There's something about 118 in hip hop, and it was 118 days later. And if you count the span of days, it became 119 days. Became 119 days. What day did the argument start? It started on November 9th. And it's funny because I'm going to transition into that in this next post. I wasn't even planning on doing that, but I got to get a show. I got to get this show on the road here. There's a lot to get to, but I was going to get to why Donald Trump was called president-elect on November 9th. Again, what's special about that number 119? All the things that have been going on with Trump from back then to now. Um, okay. So one more time. It's the upcoming 60th election, right after the big climactic moment with Trump guilty on all 34 charges that stemmed out of one charge. And again, if you missed my work on why 34 charges and why it came in the time of Passover and why Trump compared himself to Jesus, you really should go back and check out that work. Again, you got to ask why there were 34 charges when they're all based on one charge. It's like there could have just been one charge, but they made it 34. It was going on with Passover. Passover equals 34. Jesus equals 34, cross 34, church 34. Trump did compare himself to Jesus. Go back and look. And Rolling Stone wrote the article about Trump comparing himself to Jesus on April 3rd, the day before he appeared in court on the anniversary of Heath Ledger's birthday. He would have been 44 on 4/4. But again, shooting equals 44. We talked about earlier with De Niro and being in the Joker movie and the Joker's name being Arthur and De Niro portraying the character in Taxi Driver modeled after Arthur Bremer, who shot the 45th governor of Alabama. But, and hold on, when we did that the other day was Taxi Driver? Was it? Hold on, what was it? Taxi Driver had the 58 and the 68. Donald John Trump's got that 68. We call that the CIA code and why so many things went down in 1968, including big assassinations of MLK and RFK. And we got RFK Jr. in the race. And, and actually in 2 days, God, wow, that's crazy. Hold on. What? Okay. In 2 days, it's going to be okay. No. Sorry. Tomorrow. Well, 2 days from now will be the death anniversary of RFK. He died June 6th, 1968. He was shot June 5th, died June 6th at 1:44 a.m. Again, RFK Jr. got in the race 144 days after the Superior General's birthday. Jesuit order, 144. Tomorrow will be the 199th day of Joe Biden's age. Thursday, June 6th, will be 199 days after Joe Biden's birthday. So tomorrow and Thursday have the 199 connection. But 199 is the 46 prime. You know this number with Tom Brady, the 199th pick of the draft out of Michigan. Michigan equals 46 like Tom Brady. Again, you guys, there's like, if you have a brain, you realize that all these things aren't an accident, especially when we've been showing this stuff for years and calling games and championships with it, as we've done for a long time, and talk about the same things over and over and how the same number patterns manifest. Go back and look at Super Bowl 50, San Francisco's 50. They hosted that one, the golden anniversary. Gold equals 38. The 38th state won that Super Bowl on the 38th day of the year, the Cam Newton Bowl that we talked about earlier. But Tom Brady has the 46. And again, Tom Brady's kissed the hand of the Pope. Not many QBs can say that. So has Harbaugh, who also went to Michigan, who had the joke with Jake Butt, the tight end, who fell to the 145th pick of the draft the day after the Pope and Harbaugh shook hands. You see how Catholics 145, like there's 145 more chapters in the Catholic Old Testament, and there's 46 books in the Catholic Old Testament, verse 39 in the Protestant. It goes with why Martin Luther was killed at age 39. I'm talking about Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther in the Protestant Bible's got 39 books. MLK and Malcolm X both killed in the same number ritual at age 39. The biblical Hebrews, Jews are seemingly black, darker complected at least. But JFK, number 35, killed at 46. Joe Biden inaugurated on the Pope's 35th day of his age after being elected 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday. War breaks out in Israel on Putin's 71st birthday, 71 days from the Pope's. Rothschild bankers are dying. Again, it seems like what the point I was trying to make earlier about the Rothschilds and how there's, again, it's like after 9/11 when two towers became zero before they became one World Trade Center. The media did put out the story about the dancing Israelis who were there to film the attack and sent back to Israel. Now I look back at all that and I'm like, that's why the mainstream media covered that story for a second. And now they don't let you talk about it anymore. But they did that on purpose for people looking into things because it made people blame Israel. And again, Israel was created in a big 201 ritual. State of Israel 201. Don't get me started. So many tangents to go off on, but moving on. I looked up the number 60 in the Bible because I started to think about how the Jesuits, for the first 10 years with the church, they were only allowed to have 60 members. The word order equals 60. The word holy is 60. You think of the Holy Bible. Again, numbered Bibles, Jesuits, calendar, language, all in a very similar moment in history. The church being worldwide. Again, you think of the Catholic Church, they got the biggest private education system going. They got the biggest private hospital system going. Collecting the most money in the plate. You think Joel Osteen brings in money. You should see what the Catholic Church brings in. Joel Osteen got one little Lakewood church, and it's not little, it's nice, and he wouldn't let the people flooded out by Harvey. Oh my God. What a nice guy he was. He couldn't lend his facility to the people out from Harvey. But he will take your money. Yeah, again, up to 25 years, you guys. I can't tell you many times we talk about Biden and Trump and just 25 this. During the time of Trump, they kept talking about how the 25th Amendment could be used to remove him from office. If Biden falls down the stairs like Trump's wife in a number ritual and maybe he doesn't die, Biden's in a 45-day coma. On the 45th day, he can't count to 45. Could be the mainstream story. Nobody'd blink an eye. Like, that's weird. They had him count to 45, huh? Like, don't you think there's I don't know what's wrong with people, but I wish I was joking. I'm just saying that's how people really are. They'd be like, well, that's what they reported on TV, so he couldn't count to 45. Who cares? It's just a number. But what about the Masons and all his number on the building? And I don't want to think about that. The game is on. Isn't that the truth, though? Isn't that what's wrong with people? That's how they are. They got all, that's what people aren't as dumb as everyone thinks they are. It's like people get real smart when they don't want to think about something. They got all the ideas and questions, a million different ways to get out of it. You as a teacher, you realize that about certain kids. You're like, you see certain kids are really smart and they just don't want to do the stuff, and you're just like, I hope they figure out a way to use their smarts in a productive way. It's not always making excuses and coming up with this and that. But yeah, also about this. Do you see that Hunter Biden is 54 years old right now? I mean, don't get me started. If you don't know about the Diddy prediction for age 54, it's landed in a hard way. We'll see what happens to Jay-Z too. But again, the Jesuit headquarters is at the building, Church of the Jesu, building 54. Jesuit order equals 54 forward, 72 in reverse, like how everyone in Joe Biden's families died in connection to 72. 54 is the other half of this. Diddy's father was killed in 72. He's having the worst year at age 54. He's got the same Jesuit prosecutor from Georgetown that sent R. Kelly to prison at age 54 on the day in history the Jesuits were recognized by the Roman Catholic Church, September 27th. Again, the day leaving 95 days left in the year, their original mission to stop the 95 Theses. But yeah, look it up. Diddy literally has the same prosecutor that R. Kelly had, and she did go to Georgetown, founded by 54-year-old John Carroll. When John Carroll equals 54, like Jesuit order. Big numbers with the Jesuits is the point. And today is the 122nd day of Hunter Biden's age. Remember, Isus hominum salvator, the Jesuit motto, equals 122. Pope Francis equates to 122. On top of that, Pope Francis is named after St. Francis of Assisi, just like San Francisco is. San Francisco equals 122. By the way, I want to applaud somebody who spends all their time trying to critique my work each day. They actually went to San Francisco to investigate if the city was named after St. Francis of Assisi because they didn't think that was true. And they found a big statue there in San Francisco talking about how the city is named after St. Francis of Assisi. And then after they did that, they said, well, it sounds like St. Francis of Assisi was a pretty cool dude, and Zach's work is still bullshit. I just thought, see, that's the hard-headedness. You went there to prove me wrong, and then you found out I was right, but then you said I was still full of shit. That's what's wrong with people. But yes, Pope Francis does equal 122 in the most simple cipher, just like San Francisco, the city on the 122nd meridian. And remember, the Church of Satan was founded there, and satanic equals 122. And Anton LaVey, the founder, died 201 days from his birthday, but also 201 days from the Pope's birthday. And Catholic Pope equals 201, like the Jesuit order. And this number is omnipresent once you're aware of it in terms of high Jesuit rituals. And Church of Satan literally equals the same thing in Gematria as Society of Jesus, which is wild. Duality. Numbers are dualistic. So it's just like how Lucifer and Jesus have the same gematria, just like cross, Messiah, gospel, parables, they all equate to the same thing. And that same number 74, just like English equals 74, like energy equals 74, like holiday equals 74. A holiday is a holy day. There's special days. There's numbers to those days. Turns out there's actually number rituals going on every day when you look deeper into it. And that's what blew my mind. When I first started, I did not expect this to be like a daily type of thing that was going on. I thought it was like something that they served up for the biggest rituals of all time, like an assassination or a 9/11 or a start of a war. But I was like, whoa, they're doing this stuff every day. And again, if you doubt that's the case, prove me wrong. I mean, I've been building my case for over a decade. I think I've been building a damn good case. Um, yeah, again, 197 days after Biden's birthday, that's the 45th prime number. If you missed all of last week's 45s with Trump, again, the trial began April 15th with Trump versus New York. It ended May 30th. That's typically the 150th day of the year. Supposedly he's raised $150 million. But it ended 45 days later. The judge was Juan Merchant, 45. He got the verdict 45 days later. Remember, they had to bump it back a day, and then they made it seem like it wasn't going to get done that day, but then all of a sudden it came through in the 11th hour. But again, Rituals 45. It was a Thursday named after Jupiter, which is venerated by the Catholic Church, and Jupiter is Zeus. Think about the name Jupiter and Zeus. Can you hear Jesus in it? Jupiter and Zeus. Is there a Jesus in it? And again, Zeus is Greek, and the New Testament, the Christian section, the story of Jesus or Yeshua, is written in Greek. In Greek, every letter is a number as well. It's called isopsophy, whereas in Hebrew, it's gematria. But the reason I think it's more appropriate to call it gematria in English is because gematria equals English, equals occult, equals Masonic, equals Jewish, equals Jesus, equals cross, equals Messiah, equals gospel, equals parables, equals holiday, equals Independence Day, and the list goes on. Equals London, speaking of English. The sun never sets on Britain. Britain has a history at the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church worships the sun originally. The sun goes around the world, so at some point there's light everywhere. The sun never sets on Britain. The sun never sets on the church, which is worldwide. But yeah, the Jesuit acronym, Trump's part of that Jesuit fraternity, went to Fordham in New York, is 45. Again, Stormy Daniels did take the stand 45 days after her 45th birthday. And think about her just being 45 at the time of this climax. Think about the word climax in a porn star when pornography is 45. Think about Trump being called president-elect on the anniversary of the Berlin Wall, 45. Think about his VP being Mike Pence, 45, forwards and backwards. Think about the biblical themes that we've been calling out before they happen, that we're going to land with Trump, and then the pandemic happens and this huge ritual 666 days after Claydex, and Trump's declaring Operation Warp Speed on the anniversary. Anyway, this stuff's not an accident, you guys. Holy Bible's 45 forwards and backwards. And now, all these years later, when we've been talking about Trump and the Bible and the ongoing rituals, Trump's literally selling a Bible for the 60th election with his name on it when holy is 60, like Donald Trump. Come on. When it's the church doing all this. And there's a huge list with the 34 as well. As long as this 45 list is how long the 34 list is. Connects with everything like we were talking about earlier, from it being, the charges coming on the eve of Passover, which fell on April 5th that year. Trump's in court on 4/4. Passover starts April 5th. I mean, come on. Now the case, I mean, come on. And then he's dead 40. His wife dies, again, 45 years after their marriage, his ex-wife, Ivana. And then this verdict, this tough day for Trump, 45 days before her death anniversary. And remember, she died on 14/7, like there's 147 windows on the White House. Like U.S. president equals 147, like president of the United States. There's even more to this, but I just wanted to hit the 45 piece again real quick, in light of today being 197 days after Biden's birthday, but also 197 days to the Pope's birthday, the 45th prime. All these Civil War themes. Lincoln said the Civil War was instigated by the Jesuits. Those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. And again, let's add to that. I feel like we get to add on to that long repeated phrase, which is true. And those who don't know about the occult and numbers are doomed not to see it. And again, if that's wrong, I want somebody to actually prove me wrong. Because all my critics are like weirdos. They don't make legitimate arguments. Make a legitimate argument. Show where I'm wrong, not try to make up some BS about why you dismiss it because you don't believe it. That's not an argument. That's about the hardest line I've ever heard coming back at me. It's just all bullshit. Numbers are just patterns. It's like, okay. Sounds like a pretty, just anyone could have said that. Okay. One more time. Donald Trump appeared in court right after they filmed the latest Joker scene. If you guys want to go back to when that last Joker movie was coming out with Joaquin Phoenix, when it was brand new in the theaters and was the big sensation that everyone was buzzing about it around the cooler, we were showing how that movie was obviously connected to Donald Trump for all these different reasons, because Donald Trump, for years before that, had been referring to himself as Batman, and Batman is Bruce Wayne. And Bruce Wayne, by the way, in Gematria is 45. But we've been talking about this too. Look at how Donald and Joker overlap in Gematria, 23 and 31. And what's interesting about those numbers is 23 is the 9th prime number, and 31 is the 11th prime number. 9 and 11, special numbers. And if you've seen the Joker movie, a lot of people wondered why there were so many 11-11s on the clocks in that film. Every time it showed a clock, it was always 11-11. The master number set in New York, the 11th state, where the World Trade Centers once looked like an 11, and they came down on 9/11 after flight AA11 hit it. And what is A and A? Isn't it 1 and 1? So it's like a double 11 in the flight name. AA11 is 1111. Let's not forget New York equals 111, and September 11th leaves 111 days left in the year. 1. A lot of ones. It's the rep digit of 1. 111 is 111. 11 is 11. 1 is the only number that divides into all numbers. That's why 1 is associated with God in numerology, because God is in all things, is a common belief. The only number that goes in all things in terms of numbers is 1. No other number divides into every other number. They ended up building one World Trade Center. 9/11 happened on the anniversary of George H.W. Bush talking about a new world order. And again, talking about a world order, 1. But Donald and Joker, 23 and 31, 9 and 11. Trump was interviewed on 9/11 because he had an insurance firm. He said in floor 102. And look it up. The 9/11 attack was simulated by the federal government on June 1st, 102 days before the attack happened on 9/11. Art of War equals 102, translated by a Jesuit priest, Father Amiet. World Wars 102, Art of Wars 102, Al Qaeda's 102. And this is a commercial right here. Sorry, this is a blurry screenshot, but you can look this up. It's a Serta ad from years before he became president, talking about being born for the job, wearing the same suit and tie he wore for selection night. You can see the sheep are 11 and 9 in the hallway. He's talking to sheep number 9 at the end. He says, looking good, number 9, looking good. If you add 1 through 9 together, it equals 45. 45 is the 9th triangular number. 34, he had 34 charges. 34 is the 9th Fibonacci number. And Donald and Joker both equal 23, which is the 9th prime number. Looking good, number 9. Again, we were talking about back then how the hit show on CNN about the presidency, House of Cards, the president was Kevin Spacey, and his character's name was Francis, like the Pope, but Francis Underwood. And Francis equals 119, Underwood equals 119, Donald equals 119, Donald Trump president-elect on November 9th, 119. Kevin Spacey, for the record, equals 58, like Trump won the 58th election. Here, just to verify that. If I'm wrong about that, I'm misremembering something, but I'm pretty sure I'm not wrong about that. Oh, I know what it is. Okay, so in the base ciphers, Kevin Spacey, not 58. But again, if you're new here, master numerology, K. K is the 11th letter. You do not have to reduce the value of K. And if you observe that, K becomes... Oh, maybe I am mistaken, because there's a V too. V is the other master number. So actually, if you do that, you got to observe the master numerology of both. Kevin Spacey, 76. That's interesting, though, because Donald John Trump also has the 76. Okay. Kevin Spacey, though, his numbers, though, just in the base ciphers have something to do with Washington. Let me pull that back up about Kevin Spacey real quick. He doesn't have the 58. There, I got to go back and look at all the Kevin Spacey work. Maybe it was the kid who he had the case that he supposedly assaulted a young man, a gay lawsuit. Kevin Spacey is 130 and 49. Washington, where the president actually is 130 and 49. But if I go back and maybe it was Kevin Spacey was 58 years old back then. Hold on. What's his date of birth? I know there was something I was talking about with Kevin Spacey and 58 back when that was going on. He's born in 59. Okay, 2017. He turned 58 in 2017, which is the year that Trump took office after winning the 58th election and announcing he was running from the 58-story Trump Tower. And again, don't forget, Trump was the apprentice because the apprentice is the first degree of Freemasonry. And again, Freemasonry equals 58, like secret society. But yeah, the thing that there was so much with the show House of Cards that was like in the show and then would become like the news. There were so many parallels. But then Kevin Spacey even did this film for CNN of Race for the White House. It's like, come on, man. Can't people see how big of a joke it is with intertwining these lines of Donald Trump as a president running on the same campaign as Reagan, and both Reagan and Trump were Hollywood actors and also politicians. But yeah, the election was called for Trump on old 119. And now the big parallels with Joe Biden today, championing Trump's, stop him at the border thing, but doing it on 6/4, 197 days of his birthday, the 45th prime. And don't forget, both President Trump and President Biden equal 72 forwards and 81 in reverse. Like Biden supposedly got a record 81 million votes. And in light of Joe Biden and his son being the big focus today, and it just looking like and feeling like and obviously being this great mockery. Just to remind people of what happened last year. Last year, Joe Biden waited to show up in Hawaii after it caught on fire. And remember, you guys, Hawaii is not far from Japan, where the 808 drum machine was made that made hip hop music. And Hawaii is the 50th state, and it burned up the week of hip hop's 50th birthday. Again, hip hop's 50th birthday was August 11th, while the world was looking at Lahaina devastated. Again, in hip hop, great verse is fire. But 50th state, 50th anniversary, the 808 drum machine, 808 area code is Hawaii. Kanye West, who got famous around the same time as Obama, the 808 and Heartbreak, Obama from Hawaii, Barack Hussein Obama equals 64, like civil rights. In the Civil Rights Act of 64, Obama number 44, 44 years later after MLK gets killed on 4/4. Barack Obama equals 68, like MLK in 68, like CIA 68, like Donald John Trump 68, who created the whole birther divisive movement, and birthers got that 44 connection. Obama number 44, but Trump also the 44th person to be president, despite being number 45 again, because Grover Cleveland had the split term. But yeah, just look how Maui has the 64 and 44, like Joe Biden showed up on Hawaii's 64th birthday as a state. Again, it became a state 201 months after Joe Biden was born. Joe Biden met with Putin before Russia-Ukraine broke out 201 days after the first Jesuit nation year ever began on Pearl Harbor Day. But yeah, it was a huge 64 joke last year, and now you see what it is today. It's another joke on us on 6/4. Him saying he wants to stop the border, it's a joke. They're syncing this up with Joker and De Niro and characters and stories. We're people that are allowed to, we allow ourselves to be controlled by stories as long as they come from authority. That's something that humanity needs to understand about itself. If a story comes from the authority, people will allow that story to move them and shape their life and dictate their behavior and give up this because they were told that. Humanity needs to recognize that it can't be this way, or we will always be exploited and we will be used to some degree to some form of slavery, because that's exactly what humanity is right now. By the way, in light of it being the anniversary of statehood, I just thought it was funny how statehood has those 35, 46 like Catholic. I'm sure that's just a coincidence or not. But yeah, I went way too long, you guys. I'm going to do a more concise follow-up post where some days my mind's just like a pinball and I'm talking about 10 million different things, and I don't know, I can't control it. It's just like, but by the way, here you go. Biden's born November 20th, 42, back in the time of the last World War. And that's the thing too, man, because Japan, not far from Hawaii, and Hawaii got wrecked, and the wrecking ended on the anniversary of us stopping bombing Japan because the war was over in 45. Hip hop equals 45. Miami 45. This mega ritual with the Miami group, 2 Live Crew. 197 days from the Pope's birthday. And maybe also 197 days after Biden's birthday, too, because we talked about how the main man's got the 60 connection and he's 60 years old. I guess just like in terms of just things they use to really push and shape society and take people in a new way, maybe that's the parallel if they got something crazy planned with 2 Live Crew. I feel like 2 Live Crew is one of those things that did have an influence on society. And ultimately, people say, I'm not really judging, but I'm just saying I want to get away from judging, but I just want to say I don't think it was good for society. I'm making the argument without judgment. I'm just saying I just think it didn't bring good things, and that there's the thing about sex is it's super enjoyable, right? As we all know, like if it wasn't, we probably wouldn't procreate. But like all things, there's should be a balance, and like there's also an emotional attachment. From some people, not at all, and more so that's true with men. And to a degree, like I'd say I was like that at a certain point in my life. But for a lot of women, there's a lot of heartbreak in sex and cheating and just people allowing their lives to be ruined over these things. And I don't know. I just feel like this culture to push more people to that kind of behavior. It's just people think they're having a good time until their heart gets broke, or you met this really cute girl and she was into you and you hooked up, and the next thing you know, you were in the grave because you didn't know she had a boyfriend and he's going to kill your ass. That stuff happens too. Or, husband finds out the wife's cheating and he kills the whole family. These things happen. I mean, a lot of us have a story like this not far from us. I guess that's one closing thing. I think about like my sister and her best friend growing up. They're listening to 2 Live Crew, and I think they're pretty promiscuous and all this. A lot of people are, but uh, one of her best friend growing up, her sister, they found out about a cheating thing, and that's one of those situations. He killed her and then he killed himself. But thankfully, he didn't kill their children. But he did it while the children were home. So imagine what that does for the children for the rest of their life. Can you imagine being that? The childhood comes out and your mom and dad are shot? I mean, that's why, like, from the beginning, it should just be like a better upbringing. Like, okay, sex is this great thing, but it comes with a great discipline. And here's kind of the story of why that is. Because look at the society that had all these. Anyway, Sweet Lady's called and I got to get off. Sweet Lady's sending me through the universe to just shut up, Zach. So we'll leave it there for now. I'll say thank you to all the super chatters next time I get on here. But until next time, True Seeker, thank you for supporting the work.